Isabel, let me ask you as a follow-up in terms of, it's a little bit of my last question, as sort of the reaction to your third story. I'm curious as to to what extent you now see this as sort of part of your beat or part of the story that you want to tell, that even outside of Patricio's story, that the issue of foreign fighters in repatriation is something that you've been following. Obviously, as you said, the momentum has been sort of halted with everything else going on in the world, but to what extent have you sort of made this your area of expertise because of the success you had with this story?
I mean, it's certainly an issue that I'm planning to continue reporting on and to return to. I just, it's part of a broader kind of regional beat, so it's I guess, carving out the kind of the time to be able to pursue that. But I think it's clearly a very rich theme. I mean, Rena and I actually returned, we did actually do a fourth story, which perhaps wasn't submitted as part of the package.
I think there was a cutoff on dates for the end of the year, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. So we actually returned to Syria in order to find these kids after their parents were killed. They were entrusted to a Finnish woman who was the second wife of the father, of the kid's father. So we attempted to track her down and managed actually on that occasion to get access to Al-Hol. Unfortunately, she, we couldn't persuade her to speak. So I mean, that's one of the threads that I still feel like there's so much more that could be done even on this story. But
and Patricio himself has said that he would like to go back himself. He had a picture, I think, that's in the third story of the burying place of his daughter, and would like to go back to recover the remains. Has he been able to pursue that at all, or?
I mean, it's something that he continues to bring up, in the most recent conversations that I've had with him. And I feel some responsibility to say that, this is just, I mean, he's shown me that the extent of the information that he has about the location of this grave is, it's between village X and village Y. I just don't think that there is, and that area is also quite insecure. So I just don't think there's any possibility that he is ever going to be able to do that. I think for him, he's obviously very keen to find out more about his daughter. And the only way that he could really do that, I think, is by speaking to some of the women who knew her when she was living, in Syria, in the caliphate. The problem is that they are all quite hostile to him, because they have a relationship with his ex-partner, and he and his ex-partner are at odds. So I think he would find it very difficult to persuade these, which is really, I mean, it's obviously sad, because I think he feels that there's so much that he doesn't understand, and perhaps never will.
Rena, can I ask you the same question, which I asked Isabel, which is, as you said in your opening remarks, you had not been to Iraq before, you had not been to Syria before, you're based in Istanbul. Just curious in terms of how has this story changed your career? I mean, is this something now that you foresee yourself doing a bit more of, or are you sort of back in your normal freelance topics?
Yeah, I mean, we went back. Actually, the story, the fourth story, was submitted for the OPC awards, and I won the photography award.
Oh, okay. We didn't get it.
So we did go back, and we couldn't find the subject that we were looking for. We talked to other women, and I found myself kind of, because I speak Russian, I'm a Russian speaker, I found myself swarmed by women who spoke Russian, and 4 of them were from Azerbaijan, where I'm from. And I started talking to them, and I photographed one of them, and I sort of got to know them in a very brief time period that we were allowed to be there. Very briefly, their stories. And then I've been giving interviews to Azerbaijani local media, and there's over 200 women and children from Azerbaijan still in Al-Hol. And I've been, contacted by an NGO that's trying to repatriate the people, sort of about the information, the basic logistics of how to get there. I have taken the story to Davos, the World Economic Forum, and I've presented it in Davos. And that was the story of Patricio, and also in a framework of, there are still 8,000 children, foreign children completely abandoned in this camp, and it's a humanitarian disaster that the world has chosen to largely ignore. And so I have been kind of taking it to several platforms with talks. And yes, again, when the opportunity presents itself, it would be something that I'd like to continue working on for sure.